Before we get started today, I want you to just close your eyes. Got them shut? Okay, good. What I want you to do is I want you to think in your head of a country that you would like to visit. Maybe it's somewhere that you've been or somewhere that you haven't been, somewhere new that you'd like to explore, but I want you to keep that country in your head while we just talk about a few different things. Right, I'll give you a minute or just a little bit of time to think of a country. Okay, you should have one in your head right now. So, thinking about that country, I want you to think about what you would like to do when you get to that country. Would you like to go surfing on the beach? Would you like to go climb a mountain, go for a hike? Would you like to visit some historic sites, some monuments, or some buildings that interest you? Maybe you'd like to get up to a really high point and watch the sunset, or maybe you just want to spend time by the pool reading your book. It doesn't matter what you want to do, you have to be able to book your country trip that you want to go to, and you will probably want to know a few details about where you're going. So all of these ideas that we've just talked about sound really awesome, but they're no use to you unless you know what kind of climate you're entering into. And so when we look at climate graphs, we can see things like the temperature and the rainfall of the places that we're going to. And so we can make a really good judgment about what time of year we'd like to visit our awesome country. So, for example, if you wanted to go to Canada or America or somewhere like that, you can have a think about, would you like to go snowboarding in the winter, or would you like to go to visit some beaches in the summer? And depending on what type of activity you'd like to do, we can have a look at some climate graphs to tell us what type of temperature it has been in the past at a certain time of the year. So if we know all of these things, that means you can plan your trip in the winter if you want to go snowboarding, or plan your trip in the summer so that you can go and sunbake by the pool. And we can find out some of this information by looking at climate graphs. Climate graphs are used to show us two different things. Number one, they're used to show us the temperature. And number two, they're used to show us the rainfall. So number one, temperature. Number two, rainfall. Now, these are over the course of 1 year. So here's an example of a climate graph. Now, as we can see, there is a line graph, and that shows you the average monthly temperature. There's also a column graph, which is down the bottom, and that shows you the average monthly rainfall over the course of 1 year. So we use climate graphs, and the government use climate graphs to collect climate data in many different cities and many different towns in a whole bunch of different countries. This makes it possible for us and for the government to compare the climate in different places. For example, in Australia, climate data is collected by the Bureau of Meteorology. You might have heard it as the bomb site or something like that. And they have more than 1,000 different places of which they collect Australia's climate data. This data is released to the public, you and I, after a period of years, and we can look at the different trends of climate over the years that have happened. This helps scientists to determine patterns of change in the weather, things like climate change and global warming and things like that. They will look at climate graphs to see what's happening in the world in regards to the weather. The rising temperatures over time is also another thing that scientists will look at, and they will use climate graphs as well as other things, other geographical measures, to figure out patterns of weather in the world. So if we have a look at this graph from Slovenia, we can see by the red line, which is the temperature, that the highest temperature was in July and August, and it was roughly 26 degrees Celsius. So those would be the hottest months of the year. And then we can also tell the rainfall, the average rainfall, by the blue column graph. And the highest amount of rainfall that happened in the year was in October and November of the year. And that is shown, like I said, by the blue column graphs. All right, so let's have a go at actually making our own climate graph. Now here on the screen, you can see that there are temperatures and there is rainfall, so climate data for New York City in the United States of America. We have the average maximum temperature up the top, the minimum temperature in the middle, and down the bottom we have the rainfall. And so what we need to do is we need to have a climate graph, which is right here. And the first thing that we need to do is we need to put all the points in for the average maximum temperature, the average minimum temperature, and the precipitation. And something else that we can do first up is write the name of the station or write the name of the place of which we are collecting our data. And it should look something like this. All right, so what we need to do now is we need to create a scale for our temperature in degrees and our rainfall in millimeters. So by looking at our data and our raw numbers down the bottom, we need to create a scale from one number to another number. So for example, for the temperature, the lowest temperature that we can see there for the average maximum temperature is in January, and that's 3.9 degrees. And the highest temperature that we can see is for July, and it is 29.4 degrees. So our scale would need to be between, say, 0 and 35 degrees Celsius. And I want you to do the same for the rainfall. Find the lowest number, find the highest number, and create a scale that we can put on the left and the right of the graph. And it should look something like this. All right, now it's time to put some points on our graph. So looking at our average maximum temperature, you can see that for January, it's 3.9 degrees. So what you need to do is to go up on your column graph that you're about to make and put a little X next to where you think 3.9 degrees is. And you do that for the whole entire line. I just want you to do average maximum temperature. And it should look something like this. All right, so now do the same with the average minimum temperature, and you should come up with something like this. All right, now that we've done two sets of data for minimum and maximum temperature, and those are the line graphs, now we're going to look at precipitation, which is a column graph. So if we look at the bottom set of data on our sheet, we can see that January has 92.7 millimeters of precipitation. So on January, we need to go up and you need to measure it according to the indicators that are on the side for rainfall and draw a line next to where you think 92.7 millimeters. And then you do that for every single month of the year, and then you should come up with different levels of rainfall over that year. And it should look something like this. All right, so we've done an example together from New York City, and we have had a look at how to actually draw one ourselves and how to get some information from a climate graph. So what I want you to do is I want you to go onto our classroom site and I want you to complete the activities that are there. There are some more information, statistics, and some more climate graphs for you to fill out. And these are very similar to what we've looked at. They're not exactly the same, but they're very similar, and I'll ask you to do similar things that we have done today in this class. And doing this, it will help you understand how much water is in the world and how much the climate changes from different places in different countries. So don't forget that practicing these skills will really help you as a future geographer and as a geographer right now in Year 8. And practice is the best way to learn. Great musicians are only great because they practice their instrument. So remember to practice these geographical skills to be the best geographer that you can be. And even if you don't quite get all of it, maybe there's some things about climate graphs that you don't quite understand, feel free to ask me. I'm always here to help, and I will try to explain it to you in a different way. Remember, practice, practice, practice is the best way to learn and be excited about geography. And remember, I'm always here to help, so come and ask me if you have any questions at all. All right, I'll see you in class. Bye.